Joining us now, Pennsylvania Congressman, member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee and House Judiciary Committee, Guy Reschenthaler. Congressman, great to see you. But what about that $600 extra that people are receiving every week in jobless benefits? That's the sticking point. Are you going to leave Americans without any extra money?
Dagan, first off, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Let's just talk about that extra $600 a week in payments. That's really a drag on the economy because what it's doing is it's incentivizing people not to go back to work. And those that are going back to work, employers are finding themselves having to pay well over fair market wages to incentivize folks to come back to work. So that's dragging the economy down. The plan that's going to be unveiled today is going to provide 70% of what somebody would make if they were going back to work. So if the individual wants that extra 30%, they're going to have to go back to work. So I'm supportive of that. And of course, there's direct stimulus payments to individuals that's outside of the unemployment compensation. So I think it's a good starting point. We also have money going to schools and individuals. Parents will have the choice to take a voucher and be able to send their children to their kids to schools that are open, which will incentivize schools to open and open safely. So I think it's a good starting point. It's $1 trillion. The far left social justice Democrats want to have $4 trillion of spending. So let's see where this goes.
Well, respectfully, the Republicans, you guys and gals, waited so long, though, that this $600 per week, even if it's cut to 70% of what you'd be making on the job, you waited so long that these benefits are probably going to disappear for literally millions of Americans. The Democrats will tell you that they passed a this is in the House, a $3.5 trillion bill, additional stimulus that passed in the House in May. What took you so long?
Well, I would say that bill that the Democrats passed in May, that was passed pretty much along party lines, was nothing more than a messaging bill. It was crammed with a bunch of far-left radical ideas. It was a way for the Democrats to take advantage of this situation, this pandemic, and cram in their Green New Deal provisions, or really far-left socialist
I didn't say that you should take. I didn't say that the Republicans should take it up and get behind it. But again, you knew that this $600 per week was expiring at the end of this month. Those benefits disappeared over the weekend in many states. So where were you in June and most of July?
Well, we were trying to get the Democrats to come to a reasonable position, but Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House, not Kevin McCarthy. If Kevin McCarthy were Speaker, we would have had something reasonable. But call me an old school Republican, Dagan, but I still think the best way that you get the economy back on track is reducing taxation, reducing regulation. That reduces the burden on businesses, and then it incentivizes businesses to grow, hire more people, and get back on track. You can't get this economy back by not having tax cuts and by throwing more regulation on business. That's why the Republican plan, which provides for liability protections, is a good starting place. I'd like to see payroll tax cuts or holidays. I'd like to see a reduction in corporate income tax, in personal income tax as well. But unfortunately, we've got to negotiate with these far-left Democrats that control the House of Representatives.
I'm not getting behind trillions of dollars in additional spending, and I fully acknowledge that roughly, well, more than 2/3, based on University of Chicago research, more than 2/3 of individuals who are collecting unemployment benefits are receiving more in unemployment than they received on the job. I acknowledge that. But again, where were the Republicans in the Senate that really needed to craft something in order to provide some certainty for the American individual families who can't go back to work because their economy is still potentially shut down in some way because of this virus? Speaking of the Senate, Maria Bartiromo talked to Senator Lindsey Graham on Sunday Morning Futures, who had this to say about support for COVID-19 relief.
Are we going to see you pass something before the Senate leaves on August 8th? What is the conversation now about those unemployment benefits, which will go away on July 31?
Half the Republicans are going to vote no to any Phase 4 package. That's just a fact. And a lot of Democrats are going to insist on $3 trillion, which would be way too much. It would be wasted money. I'm confident President Trump will lead us to a solution where we have money for kids, jobs, and health care. We need to stimulate the economy. We need a Phase 4, and I think we'll come together before August the 5th to get this done.
Congressman, your reaction to that?
Well, I think Lindsey Graham is right, but a lot of people are hesitant to vote for another $4 trillion more dollars, because at the end of the day, this debt that we're carrying, it's a tax on future generations. It's also going to inhibit growth moving forward. So before we spend $4 trillion, let's see if we can get away with spending $1 trillion, but let's also make sure that schools are safely reopening, so when the jobs come back open, parents feel comfortable leaving. They won't have to stay home with their kids. Let's make sure that we get some kind of voucher system in place. And let's also make sure that we have liability protections so that these businesses are not facing lawsuits for reopening. So there's a lot going on right now. It's complex, but at the end of the day, we've got to incentivize businesses to reopen. And again, I'd push for tax cuts and at least a break on the payroll tax cut. Unfortunately, payroll taxes, unfortunately, that has been taken off the table already.
It has been. Congressman, good to see you. Guy Reschenthaler, thanks for being here this Monday.